They thought the golden retriever was just being opportunistic. He was being something else entirely. He had been intercepting a medical emergency for 3 weeks before anyone ran a blood test. Nothing about it looked like a warning. That was the part they couldn't get past afterward. It looked like a dog being a dog, the oldest, most familiar behavior in the world. It looked like something to laugh at, not something to pay attention to. Josephine Adler was a landscape architect, 36, methodical and precise about most things, including the introduction of solid foods, to her 11-month-old daughter Petra. She had followed the guidelines. One new food every 3 to 4 days, small portions, watch for reactions, keep a log. She had been doing it for 4 weeks, and nothing unusual had happened. Petra was tolerating everything enthusiastically, in the way of babies who have recently discovered that the world contains flavors other than milk. She laughed at eating. The whole enterprise delighted her. Their golden retriever's name was Clover. 4 years old, 68 pounds, the temperament of a dog who had been told once, very early in life, that the world was a good place, and had believed it without reservation ever since. He was friendly with strangers, gentle with children, reliably well behaved around food, unless given specific occasion. He had a habit of sitting near the high chair during mealtimes, close but not begging, just present, the way he was present everywhere. The first time it happened, Josephine was distracted. Petra had a small rice cake on the tray, a brand that, according to Josephine's log, she had given her twice before without incident. But this batch was a different variety, and on the ingredient panel, in small type, was the phrase, "may contain traces of peanut." Josephine had not noticed this. She would notice it later going back through the log. Clover, who had been sitting at the regulation distance of 2 feet from the high chair, stood up, stepped forward, and took the rice cake off the tray. He did it carefully, not snatching, a deliberate, precise removal. He ate it in 2 bites and sat back down. Josephine said his name sharply. Clover looked at her with the expression of a dog who understands that something has been communicated and has registered it. He sat. She gave Petra a different snack. The meal continued. She told her husband, Marcus, that evening. He laughed. Classic Clover. He said it without concern because there was no reason for concern. Their dog had taken food off the baby's tray. That was a dog behavior, not a signal. The second time was 4 days later. Petra was in the high chair with peanut butter crackers. They were running the standard introduction protocol for peanut products, small amounts, first exposure carefully monitored. Josephine was at the counter watching. Clover rose from his position, stepped to the tray, and took the cracker. Josephine was across the kitchen in 4 steps. She said his name with a firmness she reserved for actual misbehavior. Clover sat. He looked at her. He looked at the tray. He looked at Petra, who was laughing, in the way Petra laughed at everything involving Clover with her whole face. She gave him the word, place, and he went to his bed and lay down and watched from there with an attention that she registered briefly as different from his usual distracted compliance, and then filed away. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. The third time, Josephine was ready. She had put him on place before she started the meal. She had given Petra a small portion of hummus, a chickpea product from a brand that she would discover later shared production facilities with a peanut processing line. She watched Clover. He was on his bed, lying down, following the rules, for approximately 40 seconds. Then he stood up. He walked to the high chair at a pace she had never seen him move toward food, not eager, deliberate. He put his front paws on the tray bar, lifted the small container of hummus with his mouth, and carried it back to his bed, where he placed it on the mat without eating it. He looked at Josephine. She stood in the kitchen holding a dish towel and felt the specific sensation of a pattern clicking into place before the mind has finished building the explanation for it. She had given Petra peanut products, or products in contact with peanut facilities, exactly 3 times. Clover had removed the food on every occasion. No other food, not the pureed sweet potato, not the mashed banana, not the egg pieces, not any of the other 22 items in her introduction log, 3 times. Peanut-adjacent foods. Every time. She called their pediatrician the next morning. The allergist who saw Petra 2 weeks later was Dr. Ingrid Nakamura, 17 years, in pediatric allergy and immunology. The skin prick test and the blood panel came back on the same day. Petra's IgE levels for peanut were significantly elevated. The skin test produced a wheal of a size that Dr. Nakamura described, in the measured language of clinical practice, as indicating a high likelihood of reaction upon exposure. She said, "We are dealing with a significant peanut allergy. The level here suggests that actual ingestion could produce a systemic reaction. We're going to talk about epinephrine." Then Josephine told her about Clover. "Has your dog ever done something you couldn't explain until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard." Dr. Nakamura was quiet for a moment. Then she said what every allergist who has been in the field long enough to hear the dog stories eventually says. Dogs detect peanut protein through olfactory receptors at concentrations far below human threshold. Properly trained peanut detection dogs are used in schools and public settings to screen environments before allergic children enter them. What your dog was doing was detecting the allergen on the food before your daughter ingested it and removing it. She looked at Josephine. "He did it 3 times. "Yes," Josephine said. Dr. Nakamura said, "If he hadn't, and if the reaction had presented at home before you knew to watch for it, or had an EpiPen," she let the sentence go where it needed to go without completing it. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Petra is now 2 years old. She wears a medical alert bracelet with a peanut symbol on it. There is an epinephrine auto-injector in the kitchen, in the diaper bag, and at her grandmother's house. The family does not bring peanut products into their home. Josephine has updated the introduction log to include a column she had not previously needed. Clover sits near the high chair at every meal. He does not take food off the tray anymore. He does not need to. The danger is gone from the room, and he seems to know it in the same way he seemed to know the other thing, through some process that has no words in any human language, but operates with a precision that 4 years of medical training had not managed to replicate. Petra drops food on the floor sometimes, on purpose, looking at Clover with her whole face lit up. He looks at the food. He looks at her. He looks at Josephine. The next story is about a St. Bernard who circled a baby's kitchen seat every morning for a week, and the diagnosis that followed. Josephine gives him the nod. He eats it. Petra laughs so hard the tray shakes, and Clover's tail sweeps the kitchen floor in long, steady arcs, and the afternoon light comes through the window above the sink and makes everything in the room warm.